Welcome to the NWR Virtual Investor Series. My name is Kerry Stevenson. Joining me today is Scott Caithness. He's the Managing Director of Alderan Resources. ASX code is AL8. And they are a USA-focused copper and gold exploration company. And its portfolio, it consists of 4 high-quality exploration projects in Utah, the state of Utah. Scott, over to you to tell the Alderan Resources story.
Thanks very much, Kerry, and thanks to everyone who's joined. As Kerry mentioned, Alderan is basically we've commenced a drilling program in the USA for our copper and gold projects. So, usual disclaimer. Highlights for the company: our flagship Detroit project. It's a historical copper, gold, and manganese mining district with what we consider to be outstanding copper and gold potential. We've just commenced this week a 10-hole drilling program, which will test 7 copper and gold targets. So that program has commenced. We've recently acquired an option over the Drum Gold Mine, which is a historical producer. It's part of the Detroit project. So it's in the southeastern corner of our tenement area. Historical production, 125,000 ounces. And it's had no exploration since 1989. All our projects are located in Utah, in the USA, which is a tier 1 mining jurisdiction, globally ranked. We also have a project pipeline. We have the Frisco project, which I'm sure many investors in Alderan will be aware of. We also have the Valley Crossroads and White Mountain projects. This presentation, I'll focus on Detroit, which is our flagship. But if people have questions about Frisco or any of the other projects, then I'd be happy to answer questions. Just in terms of our project location, as I mentioned, we're in Utah. That ranked 4th in the Fraser Institute 2020 ranking of policy perception. So Fraser Institute does a global survey of mining companies around the world and the jurisdictions in which they operate. We have excellent access to infrastructure. We're also in we have world-ranked copper and gold mining districts in Utah and also in neighboring Nevada. Just to the north of us, we've got the Bingham district, which includes Rio Tinto's globally ranked Bingham Canyon copper mine. And then in neighboring Nevada, we've got the Carlin Trend and also the Battle Mountain Trend, which have world-leading gold deposits. We believe that our Detroit project has potential for porphyries like Bingham, also copper and gold targets that occur in the Carlin and Battle Mountain districts. Just moving on to Detroit, I'll just give you a brief history of it. We acquired an option agreement over a portion of the Detroit project area in April 2020. In October 2020, we did some initial exploration, and also we completed a 7-hole drilling program, which extended. The drilling program was focused in the Mizpah gold project, and it extended that mineralization and also verified and confirmed what was already drilled there. And I'll talk a little bit about Mizpah later in the presentation. With those results, they're encouraging. And in February 2021, we basically consolidated the district. That gave us 25 square kilometers. So we basically acquired through option agreements rights over the entire district. And then between March and August this year, we completed our surface exploration. We completed stream, rock, and soil sampling, magnetics and IP geophysical surveys, and also some petrography. And basically, in September, we acquired the Drum Mine, and we've commenced drilling at the start of October. The drilling program, unfortunately, was delayed due to the previous client retaining the drill rig. So we were hoping to have that started in early September. But we're underway now, which is fantastic. So really, in terms of the project, we've really only had the project in its entirety since February this year. So basically in the course of 6 months, we've gone from acquiring the project to drilling our targets. I'll just take you through some of the results of some of the work that we've done. First off, the copper and gold in stream sediments and rocks. The image that you can see on the left-hand side is our copper results, and the image on the right-hand side is our gold results. So we carried out, the first bit of work we did was we carried out essentially a stream sediment sampling survey just to see what we got in terms of the copper and gold situation. The warm colours, as you would expect, are the highly anomalous areas in both maps. So you can see on the left-hand side, I'll talk about the copper. We got significant copper anomalies around the Copperhead area and also down around the EPH mine area that you can see in the south. In conjunction with the streams, we also collected rock chip samples, and you can see some of the rock chip sample results that we've got there, and I've highlighted the ones that are greater than 1%. So a maximum rock chip sample is 3.2% copper up around the Copperhead mine, but you can also see we've got very elevated copper 2% grades around EPH mine as well, further to the south. So in the copper, we collected actually 17 samples that graded greater than 0.5% copper. And as I said, maximum 3.2. In terms of the gold, and this stream sediment survey was really geared towards gold. You can see that we got very highly anomalous gold results, again, up around Copperhead and out on the eastern side of the project, out towards Mizpah. Our geochemist consultant that advised us on this program said that anything above, he considered 1 part per billion with this sampling technique was anomalous. We notionally used a cutoff of 4. And you can see it, virtually the entire tenement area that was sampled has gold grades that are greater than 4 parts per billion. We actually, in terms of the rock chip samples, we collected 28 rock chip samples which grade greater than 1 gram per tonne, and the maximum was 9 grams per tonne, which is around the Copperhead area. We also got up to nearly 7 grams per tonne around Mizpah, and again around EPH mine we got 2 grams, nearly 3 grams per tonne. So highly anomalous grades of copper and gold. In terms of the district, I mentioned it's an old gold and copper mining district. There are over 30 old historical workings through this particular area. Our next step was to carry out a ground magnetic survey, and we followed that up with an IP survey. Ground magnetics is on the left-hand side, and you can see that we identified the basin complex, which is basically approximately a 2 kilometre diameter magnetic and also chargeability anomaly using the IP. Within that basin complex, we've got the basin main target, which is what we consider to be one of the more significant targets coming out of the magnetics. And we consider that we're interpreting that at this stage to be a potassic altered core of a porphyry system. You can see there's an old working, it's referred to as the basin porphyry, just off to the eastern side of the basin main anomaly. That was something that was explored in the 1960s. We have some data on that, but basically what they were targeting was a near surface oxide copper deposit. They did find certainly a small deposit, a small low grade. So we know that there is copper oxide deposit that sits just off the basin main target. That basin main target, its dimensions approximately are 500 meters by 500 meters by 300 meters. So it goes to a depth of 500 meters. It's been modeled. And you can see that in the red on the diagram on the right, which is a combination. It's a 3D inversion model of the geophysics with the magnetics in red and the chargeability from the induced polarization in yellow. So you can see I've highlighted there the basin main magnetic anomaly, which basically extends to a depth of over 500 meters below surface, and you can see it narrows as it gets deeper. One of the holes that Alderan did when it was doing the Mizpah drilling actually drilled towards that target. We didn't actually have that target within our ground at that particular point in time because it was pre-consolidation, but we did some petrology. So we basically, petrology is looking at the rocks under a microscope. So we collected a series of samples down the hole to have those rocks identified, to see whether they had the right sort of alteration and see what mineralization was in them. So we collected, I think it was 11 samples right down the hole, and the petrography basically confirmed that the rock type was basically potassic altered porphyry which is what we would like to see, and that there was also copper and gold and molybdenum mineralization identified in those rocks. Low grades, we only received low grades in that hole, but that hole, as I said, it was drilled towards the basin main. It essentially, we believe that it sort of almost like gave a pinprick to that anomaly. So it entered the anomaly, we think, by about 10 meters. And bear in mind that anomaly is 500 meters long by 300 meters wide. So really it was a pinprick in the surface. In terms of the chargeability is used basically to, or IP is used to identify chargeable zones underground in the rocks. We identified 4 new targets, and you can see in the image on the right-hand side there, the southern anomaly, the Copperhead, the northern extension, and the Mizpah. We also identified what we refer to as the stem of the basin complex, a very large chargeability anomaly that extends from surface right the way down. You can also see how that chargeability sits within the magnetic anomaly, and it also wraps right around the basin main magnetic anomaly. Everything hangs together in terms of a porphyry target with peripheral gold targets around it. So we're interpreting the southern anomaly, Copperhead, northern extension, and Mizpah to be peripheral gold targets. As I mentioned in the slide, we've mentioned that Copperhead, we've got up to 9 grams per ton gold at surface. At Mizpah, 6.9. At southern anomaly, some of the historical sampling pre-Alderan had up to 7.6 grams per ton. And just to give a perspective on scale, if I lower the cutoff from 40 milliseconds to 20 milliseconds, and I'll show you an image of that shortly, these targets are approximately 1 kilometre long. They're all between 150 and 500 meters wide, and they're all modeled to extend 300 meters to 500 meters from surface. So they're very large targets. As I mentioned before, we know that we've got gold mineralization at Mizpah. And if I talk about Mizpah a little bit, what we did after we did the initial drilling was we went back and we had a look at the old data that we had around Mizpah in much more detail. There are 197 drill holes, historical drill holes drilled at Mizpah in the 1980s for oxide gold resource. So the average depth of those holes is only 28 meters. When we went back and looked at those holes in a bit more detail, we found that 20 of those holes ended in assays of greater than 1 gram per ton. The maximum assay at the end of a hole was 9 grams per ton, and 40 of them ended in greater than 0.5 gram per ton. From the sections, you can see that the mineralization is open. It's open to the northwest and to the southeast. It's also down dip. It's open down dip to the southwest and at depth. And we believe that we've identified the potential for a second gold mineralized horizon, which was touched on, we think, with a couple of drill holes. When Alderan did its drilling in our program, one of the holes, hole number 6, we intersected 83 meters at 0.41, which also had about 7 meters at 2 grams within it. That hole was drilled about 250, 300 meters to the northeast of the historical Mizpah drilling. And with the geophysics, we've also detected a very large untested chargeability anomaly below the drilling. So you can see at the bottom there, bottom right-hand corner, that's the basin chargeability that I showed in the previous slide. That's the isosurface at greater than 20 milliseconds cutoff. So the geophysicists tell us that anything above 20 milliseconds cutoff with chargeability is significant and should be looked at from an anomaly point of view. You can see that all of the drill holes around Mizpah, none of them actually reached that particular target. So we've got a very large chargeability anomaly sitting below Mizpah that has not been tested in the previous drilling. And that is very similar to the situation at Southern Anomaly, Copperhead, and also Northern Extension that I mentioned before. This is an image of the chargeability, and you can see where I pointed out the basin main magnetic anomaly. So this is a shell between 20 and 30 milliseconds. And you can it starts to give you some idea of the scale of this particular target. You can see the basin main is just red in the central portion there, which is sort of underlaying the chargeability anomaly. So think of this as just almost like an eggshell that's been hollowed out, and we're just showing the magnetics below it. And basically what I'm showing is the targets that we've got. And drilling is actually underway on the southern anomaly at the moment, target R1. So we have 10 holes that are planned. We have approximately 3,000 meters. The basin complex is basically a porphyry copper gold molybdenum target. And within that, we've got 2 targets that we're going to be drilling in the first phase of drilling. The first is the basin-made magnetic anomaly, which is N1. You can see where that's pointed to in the center there. And then we're also going to drill the chargeability stem that I mentioned before at hole number Y. Then we've got the 4 distal disseminated gold plus or minus copper targets. We've got the southern chargeability anomaly that you can see down at the bottom there where we're currently drilling. You can see we've got 2 holes targeting the copperhead target up to the northwestern side. We've got the northern extension with 2 holes. We've also got a further hole into Mizpah to test down dip extensions of where we drilled that previous hole, which got the 83 meters at 0.41. And then we've got 2 targets. We've got the Martha mine, and we've also got a skarn target, which is the highest chargeability on the prospect, which is great. It's an anomaly that shows up at greater than 80 milliseconds in terms of those targets. So that drilling's underway right now. Our most recent acquisition is the Drum Gold Mine, where we've taken an option agreement over the Drum Mine. Our payments it's a 3-year option. Our payments total $50,000 with, if we exercise the option, we have to pay a further $450,000. Our expenditure commitments are $120,000 US. There is a 2% royalty, net smelter return royalty, but we have an option to purchase 1% of that for $450,000. So we're very pleased with the deal that we've managed to do. We're starting to put together the information on the Drum mines and some of the information that we've got to date. Discovery hole was 15 meters at 8.5 grams per ton. Now, bear in mind, this was like Mizpah. This was an oxide gold deposit. It was only explored and only mined as an oxide resource. Production from 1984 to 1989 was 125,000 ounces from around about 3 million tons, grading about 1.22 grams per ton. The last underground ore was mined in the southwest pit. So they did actually go underground right at the end of the mine life, and that mined in excess of 4 grams per ton. Certainly some of the information that we're putting together, we have seen historical assays of up to an ounce. And there are drill holes, and I'll show in the next slide, that have 13, 14 meter intersections at 5 grams per ton.
2 minutes, Scott.
Okay. There's been no exploration done on Drum since the mine closed in 1989, which is a pretty extraordinary situation to be in. Just a couple of images. The section down the bottom is probably the most important. You can see where the historical mining was done. The important thing is the Tatau member, the red member that you can see there that was mined in the northeast pit, was not even tested as it went down dip into the southwest pit. So nothing was drilled from the southwest pit into the Tatau, that particular unit, which was a major part of the production of the old mine. You can see we're starting to work out the geology and the structure with the mine from the images above. And as I say, you can see historical hole 13 meters at 5 grams per ton. I won't go through this in terms of the team. This is our board and executive team. People can go through that themselves. Probably the most important aspect of it is that we're all very, very experienced. We've all come out of large companies in the early parts of our careers. Pasminco, Western Mining, and Rio Tinto. And basically we're all aligned in terms of what's happening with Alderan. In terms of our corporate structure, where we're at the moment, we have a market cap currently of 18.3 million. We've got about 425 million shares on issue. We've got $4.5 million in the bank. And just in terms of final 4 points, I know Kerry always likes 3, but I put 4 in here.
You couldn't help yourself, Scott. You had to go 4.
Look, in terms of Detroit, I mean, the interesting thing about us with Detroit is basically we virtually have first mover status for modern exploration over this consolidated porphyry district. Other companies have had and explored bits and pieces of it, but nobody's had the lot consolidated. drilling is underway and we've got multiple targets. We've just acquired the new drum mine and we're putting that information together. We have a US-based technical team that consists of 30-year experienced Rio Tinto and Newmont veterans. The Newmont guys wanted to come and work for us when they realized we had Detroit. Utah, we're in a leading jurisdiction. Our market cap's only 18.3 million and our enterprise value is actually only 13.8 million. So we're in a very, very strong position to move forward when we have success with our drilling program. Thank you very much.
Scott, thank you very much and congratulations on pulling together what looks like a really interesting district of copper gold projects. And ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to ask a question of Scott, now's the time. Pop your question in the Q&A panel down below, and I will promise you that I'll ask Scott those questions. While you're thinking about the questions, Scott, you talked a lot about the drilling that you're doing at Detroit.
Yep.
A couple of questions around that. When can we expect to see the first set of results, do you think, from Detroit?
Yeah, look, we'll sample as we progress with the drilling program and submit those samples to the laboratory. So a lot will depend on lab turnaround time. We're anticipating our first results before the end of the year. So we're starting now, you know, lab turnaround time, probably about 2 months in the US at the moment, we think. It is coming down, however. So realistically, yeah, I think sometime in December.
Okay. You talked about the 10-hole drilling program at Detroit, but actually I got a little bit excited about the drum project, which is within the district, but those numbers, those historical numbers sound pretty exciting. You know, what's the plan for drum? Yeah. And when do you expect to sort of maybe put a rig over there and start drilling? Because I tell you what, those numbers look pretty interesting.
Yeah, look, obviously we're going to put all the information together. We expect to have that, you know, there's 480 drill holes into drum, historical drill holes. Average depth is only about 40 meters of all those holes. So again, you know, the point is it was an oxide operation. They've never really looked at the deeper mineralization, and all those drill holes too are reverse circulation. So they're only getting chips. So they get geological information and they get assays. That's about it in terms of, you know, rock type and assays. They don't get a lot of the structure. So we're putting that together. We expect to have that completed probably early next month, maybe a little bit quicker if we're lucky, but early next month. So we'll basically design a program, but I can tell you that our geologists are already selecting drill sites and we're looking at trying to get permitting done for drilling already, but that will just depend. We'll basically design the program after we've compiled all the exploration results.
Well, there's a lot of work going on, and you actually mentioned, I actually hadn't realized this, Nevada is very well known for its gold and its wonderful mining jurisdiction. Tell us a little bit about Utah. Is that similar geological structure to the Nevada belt? So, I mean, we've got the Carlin Trend and Battle Mountain. What's Utah like?
Utah's not too bad. I mean, obviously, you've got the Bingham Canyon mine to the north. And I mean, that's a world-class Rio Tinto operation that's been going for many years. You've got a series of gold mines associated with that. So you've got things like Barney's Canyon, then you've got the Mercure mine, and we're gradually moving south. And then we've got the Tintic Belt, which is really what Detroit is part of. So there is an old Tintic Porphyry copper mine that's been closed for a number of years. So yeah, Utah does have a mining inventory, a major mineral deposit inventory. It probably, obviously, because Nevada's, you know, well known. It's the place that everybody goes to. It's like the standout area, and probably as a consequence, as you come across into Utah, it just hasn't received the same attention. So I mentioned before about the disparate ownership of these districts. I mean, one of the things I'm learning about is how exploration works in the US. The competing sorts of titles, the way that mineral rights can be owned by individuals. So one of our deals is with a gentleman one of our option agreements is with a gentleman that's 84 years old. He's had it virtually his whole life. And so, you know, you get these, so things have just sat in some cases for decades with no exploration work being done, or very limited exploration.
Well, therein lies the absolute opportunity. I've got to take the final question. Are you able to provide a quick update on Rio's exploration at the Frisco project and the expected timing for next results?
Yeah. Look, Rio completed their 9-hole drilling program earlier this year, which we reported all the results of those. Some of which were, very encouraging. I mean, they intersected at Cactus. They had a drill intersection of 44 meters at 1.9 copper and 0.6 gold, and then down at Accrington, another project. Both of these projects have been worked by Alderan. They had another intersection of about 34 meters at 1% copper and a small gold credit with that as well. Rio's target is a Rio target now. It's quite clear. So they drilled a number of prospects in that first phase, which was similar to the targets that Alderan had drilled. I assume that was basically to work out what they felt about the project as a whole. So basically what they're doing now is they're flying a drone aeromagnetic survey, pretty much covering the whole tenement area. We're expecting to get the results of that survey probably early next month, when we have our quarterly meeting with Rio. And basically then that will determine what their next steps are. So Rio, obviously being a large company, they take a fairly cautious approach with their exploration. They want to have clear idea that there's Rio Tinto targets there. So they're looking for the big picture target, the Rio scale now, which we're quite happy about.
Well, you've given us a really good overview of what you're doing in Utah. Very exciting times. Well done on I guess, getting those projects together. Lots of work to do, but lots of news flow coming. So ladies and gentlemen, ASX code is AL8. Watch this space. Plenty of news coming up for Alderan Resources. Scott Caithness, thanks for joining us at the NWR Virtual Resources Series today.
Thanks very much, Karen.